Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into the world of a truly extraordinary figure in football.
That's right. We're talking Jorge Campos.
A name that just screams flair,
Right?
innovation, and, well, a completely unique way of playing the game.
Absolutely. He was something else.
We've pulled together quite a mix of stuff for this deep dive. Detailed career breakdowns, some really insightful biographical pieces, personal interviews, too.
Yeah, and the analyses of his style, which was, let's face it, groundbreaking. It's a pretty rich picture we're hoping to paint.
So the mission today.
I think it's really to unpack his career, yeah, but also the impact. This is a player who didn't just revolutionize the goalkeeper position.
He blew it up.
Yeah, pretty much. He defied every single expectation. And we want to show how that style, which maybe looked a bit eccentric or, crazy back then, was actually incredibly forward-thinking, prescient even. He saw where the game was going. Decades early, he just blurred all the lines on the pitch.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Acapulco, Mexico. Born October 15th, 1966.
Right, in Acapulco. It's not just any city, is it? It's vibrant, it's coastal, loads of tourists, high energy.
You can almost, feel that influence in his personality, can't you? That color, that zest.
Definitely. And it comes through in those kits, too, which we'll get to. But what's immediately striking is his height for a keeper.
Yeah, 1.68 meters.
What?
So what's that, about 5'6"?
Exactly. Tiny for a goalkeeper, especially even back then. And the story goes he was often kind of pushed into goal because of his height.
Right, the shortest kid often ends up in goal.
Yeah, but the twist is he desperately wanted to be a forward. He loved scoring goals.
So how does that work? How do you take being maybe seen as too short for your position and turn it into, well, him, this unique style?
That's the core question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And his early experiences are key. Playing on a local team, his dad often coached.
Playing with his brothers, cousins?
Right, and here's a kicker. Apparently his brothers were considered even better players than him.
Wow.
Yeah, and because one brother was often the goalie, Jorge played outfield a lot. So almost by accident, he's building this amazing all-round skill set. Dribbling, shooting, game sense.
Which obviously paid off later. Massively.
Hugely. And his path to Pumas, the pro club, is interesting too. They spotted him in a game in Acapulco.
But his parents weren't immediately sold on the football career idea.
Not at all. They were pretty strict, insisted he finish high school first. It actually took Dr. Miguel Mejia Barón, who was Puma's technical secretary then. It took him talking to Campos's dad, really convincing him about Jorge's potential to let him go pursue it. Even then, Jorge kept studying business admin in college for a bit. Shows commitment.
Okay, so he gets to Pumas, but it wasn't like he walked straight into the #1 keeper spot.
No, Adolfo Rios was the main guy. So Campos is looking for game time, right? First tune action.
And this is where it gets wild.
Absolute bonkers. There's a player shortage. Pumas needs attacking options.
Yeah.
And Campos basically says, put me up front.
Just like that. A goalie.
Yep. And in that first season, 1989-90, he scores 14 goals. He was actually in the running for the league's top scorer award.
That's insane. What does that even tell you about him? Or the league, then?
It tells you he had incredible natural talent, zero fear, and maybe, the tactical side of the game was a bit more, shall we say, flexible back then.
Maybe. So, okay, he proves he can score goals.
And then he does eventually become the first-choice keeper, leads Pumas to the championship in 90-91. But here's the clincher. He only agreed to go back in goal on one condition.
Which was?
That they'd still let him play up front sometimes.
You're kidding?
Nope. And it happened. Not just switching positions between games, sometimes during games. Think about that famous bicycle kick goal he scored for Atlante later on.
Oh, yeah, the overhead kick.
Exactly. He started that game in goal. They needed a goal. They sent him up front, and bang, bicycle kick.
Yeah.
Unbelievable stuff.
So his actual goalkeeping, it was just as unconventional, right?
Totally. He had to compensate for the height. So amazing leaping ability, like springs in his boots.
Incredible reflexes, speed off his line.
Super quick.
Yeah.
And his style was just acrobatic, flamboyant, definitely risky. Those famous kamikaze sorties.
Yeah. Charging miles out of his box.
Sometimes almost playing near the halfway line. He wasn't just stopping attacks. He was starting them, taking huge risks, but often they paid off.
And that comfort on the ball, playing so far out.
That's the libero keeper or sweeper keeper role, right? He was doing it years before it became mainstream. Think Chilavert, Higuita. Campos was right there with them, a real pioneer.
Way ahead of the curve.
Decades, honestly. And then that 1992 back pass rule change. where keepers couldn't handle deliberate back passes anymore.
Right, designed to speed up play.
Yeah, and it inadvertently made Campos even more valuable. Suddenly, having a keeper who was brilliant with his feet wasn't just a bonus, it was almost essential. His skill set perfectly matched where the game was heading.
Okay, we have to talk about the kits.
Oh, the kits. You can't talk Campos without the kits.
Neon pink, fluorescent yellow, crazy geometric patterns, all self-designed.
Yeah, started when he was at Pumas, apparently just because he didn't have a proper uniform one day and improvised, but then it became his thing.
Clearly inspired by Acapulco, right? The surfing, the bright colors.
Totally. He said they were a homage to his childhood. They were just so him, and they made him instantly recognizable worldwide. Huge boost to his popularity, a real media phenomenon.
I remember Iker Casillas saying he was inspired by Campos's unique style, too.
Exactly. He influenced a whole generation.
So moving on to the international stage, Mexico's #1 from 91 onwards.
Indispensable. Racked up 129 caps in the end.
And those World Cups, 94 and 98, he was just electric. The saves, the personality, the kits again. He was one of the stars of the tournament globally.
Absolutely. Everyone knew who Jorge Campos was after 94 especially.
And his unique role playing keeper and potentially striker actually led to a FIFA rule change.
Yeah, this is fascinating. During the 94 World Cup, Spain apparently lodged a complaint about Campos being registered as both a keeper and a forward. Their argument was, essentially, it gave Mexico an unfair advantage, like having an extra player option in the squad list.
Huh. So what happened?
FIFA actually listened. They amended Law 3, the one about player numbers and subs, to specifically restrict keepers. Once substituted, they couldn't just be redeployed elsewhere. It used to be a bit looser.
Wow. So his style literally changed the rule book.
Directly. A testament to how much he pushed the boundaries.
And he had success with Mexico too, right? Not just flair.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Won the CONCACAF Gold Cup twice, 93 and 96.
And that huge Confederations Cup win in 99.
In Mexico. Beating Brazil 4-3 in the final. Massive achievement. Plus a runner-up finish in Copa America 93, Mexico's first time in that tournament, and third place in 99, too. He was central to a really strong era for Mexico.
Then came MLS, Major League Soccer, in the U.S. He was a big part of its launch.
Huge. He signed for the LA Galaxy in the inaugural 1996 season. Later played for Chicago Fire, too. He was arguably the league's first major foreign star.
Yeah.
Brought instant credibility and, well, excitement.
And there was that weird period where he was registered for teams in both leagues.
Yeah, simultaneously playing in MLS and back in Mexico. You definitely couldn't do that today. It was a different time for player contracts and league structures.
And he made a prediction back then about MLS?
He did. He said that MLS and U.S. soccer would eventually surpass Liga MX, the Mexican league.
Which must have gone down well in Mexico.
And not exactly. You got a fair bit of criticism for it at the time. But you look now, the growth of MLS, the U.S. national team, maybe he wasn't so far off the mark.
Pretty insightful looking back.
And commercially, he was huge. That Nike ad.
The good versus evil one from 96. Iconic.
Yeah, with Cantona, Ronaldo, Maldini, Figo, all the absolute legends. Campos was right there alongside them.
Cemented his status as a global cultural icon, not just a footballer. He was cool, you know?
Totally. So his playing days end, but he doesn't just disappear, does he? No, not at all. Stays right in the game. First, as an assistant manager for Mexico under Ricardo Lavolpe for the 2006 World Cup cycle.
And then into commentary.
Yep. Made a really successful switch to TV Azteca. Formed this incredibly popular trio with Christian Martinoli and Luis Garcia. They had amazing chemistry.
Even though Campos himself was famously quiet on air sometimes?
Yeah, he even admitted he didn't say much and sometimes just left if the game got boring.
Seriously? He'd just leave the broadcast booth?
Apparently so. But somehow, his presence, even his quietness, was part of the charm, part of their dynamic that people loved.
That's amazing. And this links back to his personality, right? That mix of humility and playful confidence.
Exactly. He always credits his parents, their strict upbringing, keeping him grounded, and his childhood friends back in Acapulco.
Telling him not to get a big head when he got famous.
Right, calm down. Don't get carried away. He seems genuinely humble. But then you have him joking in a U.S. commercial about being the Michael Jordan of Mexico.
How do you square that? Is it an act or just comfort in his own skin?
I think it's the latter. It's not arrogance, it's confidence, mixed with that playful side and knowing where he came from. He earned the right to have that self-belief. given what he achieved.
And he's channeling that into something new now, isn't he? An academy?
Yeah, a really ambitious project. A modern goalkeeper academy in Mexico.
And his vision for it is quite specific.
Very. He wants to teach young Mexican keepers the European style, playing out from the back, being comfortable on the ball, being proactive off the line.
Like he played, basically.
Exactly. He feels current training in Mexico is maybe a bit outdated, badly formed, was his phrase. He wants to bring back that sweeper-keeper mentality he embodied 20, 25 years ago, fostering a new generation.
That's fantastic. And something that maybe fueled his own unique play was his work with the psychologist.
Yes, Octavio Rivas. Campos talks quite openly about this, how Rivas taught him visualization techniques, how to harness energy.
To see things others don't on the field.
That's the quote. It suggests there was real mental depth and preparation behind the seemingly impulsive acrobatic style. It wasn't just raw talent. It was honed intuition.
Gives you a different perspective on those kamikaze sorties.
Absolutely. Calculated risks, maybe, informed by this mental training.
And just a couple of fun anecdotes before we wrap up. Paris Fashion Week.
Get this, yeah. He attended Paris Fashion Week because his iconic '94 World Cup kit was actually featured in a show or exhibition there. How cool is that?
That's brilliant. And the sandals thing?
Oh, yeah. Famous for it. Hates wearing proper shoes, says they hurt his feet after years of football boots. So he wears sandals everywhere.
Even to formal events.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Got married in them, the story goes.
Classic Campos. Just doing his own thing.
Always. That authenticity really shines through.
So despite all the success, the one big dream, the World Cup win as a player.
That eluded him, yeah. The big one he wanted for Mexico.
But he still hopes for the future of Mexican football.
Definitely. He mentioned his young son dreams of winning it for Mexico one day. So that hope carries on. It shows his connection to the country, and the sport is still incredibly strong.
And looking at why he's still so beloved, not just in Mexico, but all over.
I think a few things stand out. He avoids conflict. Apparently just walks away if things get heated.
Stays off social media, too.
Which he says makes him happier.
Yeah.
Avoids the negativity. And he just seems to genuinely appreciate the fans, always has time for them, grounded, despite the fame.
So when you put it all together, what's the lasting picture of Jorge Campos?
For me, it's this incredible mix. Athletic genius, sure, but also revolutionary thinking, and this personality that was just infectious.
He didn't just play goalkeeper. He reimagined it, turned it into art almost. Strategy, too.
Absolutely. His influence isn't just on goalkeeping, it's on the idea of what a footballer could be. Charismatic, stylish, joyful, rule-breaking, and the game eventually caught up to him.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. He defied all the limits of his position, showed everyone a different way. What looked crazy then is now, in many ways, the blueprint for modern keepers.
So the final thought for everyone listening.
Maybe it's this. Where else are we sticking to the old rules? In our own lives, in different fields. Where are we clinging to conventional wisdom when maybe, just maybe, that unconventional, slightly crazy approach.
Like Fambus.
Exactly. Maybe that's actually the path to the future. Something to mull over.